much that is sort of imposed on how the work is being presented, and yet there's a place for a young Lateefah to play Juliet.
Right, right. You know, there's a place, and it's sad because I didn't know it at that time, and I think a lot of young girls like me didn't know it. And that's the part that I think has pushed me in my life now to encourage and to support, no matter who you are, what you look like, whatever you may identify as. You too can be this if you want it. You can do it, and that's something that I always I live by that, because you know, Shakespeare especially, they will try to put you in a box. I mean, the business period will try to put you in a box as an actor. And our job is to break that box down. You sometimes you got to play in the box to get ahead in a way, right? But then it's, as you're playing that game, you're systematically trying to break down the box that is built, that's trying to be built around you or trying to keep stable. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we did with Much Ado, in a way.
Yeah, that those boxes, right? I mean, I remember, you know, late 80s, early 90s, it was a very specific box that I was put in, and I was like, that box, I don't fit in this box at all.
Right.
I don't sell drugs.
You're like, that's not my character right now. I'm not quite identifying with that said stereotype at the moment. Right.
Right. And for me, and I think we've had this discussion, you know, it wasn't until Obama got elected president, lawyers and judges and doctors and things like that. But it was like, you know, and I don't mind playing in that box either. But, you know, for me, I'm a clown. So even within that box, I have to find that place for myself where I have the comfort of snarkiness and of like, you know, I have to do that for myself. And that was what was so much fun playing with you in Much Ado, because, you know, the first I played Friar Francis, and then what the hell was the other guy's name?
Wait. I don't remember.
Yeah. Oh God. But
yeah,
playing Friar Francis was all about the urgency of the moment, and, you know, bringing everybody to Jesus. And then and then in Act 2, I got to walk funny and look at you and have a good time.
We were both clowns. And I think I come from that place too, of like, you know, my character is a clown. But the funny part about being a clown, especially in Shakespeare, when you're given the chance, because like I said, I started out, I think the first Shakespeare role I did was the nurse. She is indeed a clown. But, you know, it's the humanness.
Yes.
It's the depth and it's the heart behind these clowns, right? That make them so iconic and make them so amazing, because not only are there, I feel like we're with the audience. You know what I mean? Like they're seeing everything that's happening, is we're with them. We're like, hey, we see that it's happening, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's a fun way for them to check in, even if you know, the main character might have just did a speech and you might have understood 3 parts of it. And, you know, here the clown comes with the prose, like, did you see what happened? You know, like, we're going to check in with you and make sure you're okay, you know? And that's special.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think we always, you know.
Yes. And I super enjoy the sense of the clown too, in that everything is extremely serious in their world.
Yes.
And that's that thread of comedy. It's that thing of, you know, how seriously Dogberry took herself, right? And how serious we were about our jobs.
And,
you know, I try to tell my students, you know, it's what you don't know is what makes the comedy. You know, it's always, you know, don't be too smart.
Right.
Don't know everything.
Right, absolutely. And then even for me, it's always this thing, and this is to go in like a different direction, but it's always this notion of like, okay, I'm a Black female, I'm plus size, I'm playing a clown.
Mhm.
I'm sassy. You know what I mean? Like, it's like these little things, that these boxes, and you're like, oh no, oh no. Am I playing the stereotype, you know? But it's like exactly what you're saying. You're fighting against those things. I don't want you to see me as that. I want you to see me as this character. And also, like you said, people of color being the chance to be the clown. Sometimes we're like Shakespeare wrote it. We're some of our character tragic, Aaron the Moor, Othello, like, you know what I mean? It's dark, it's deep. It's like, not only are you fighting for love, life, you're fighting to exist in this world.
Yeah.
So there's something about being able to unpack that a bit, and sort of straddle the line between, and that's comedy, the line between drama and comedy. They're together. So it's like, where do I go? And I feel as people of color, BIPOC people, we gotta like, because not only, I feel like, especially in Much Ado, it was this thing of like, you better be great. You better be great. Otherwise, this might never happen again. It was a lot riding on the shoulders of and then I think in it, we knew it, but you didn't quite know it because you were just trying to do your job. But it was this silent, I don't want to say pressure, but silent thing of like, wow, this is the first time this is being done. And if this doesn't go the way they want it to go, this may possibly close a chapter that could, that could open up so many more, things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, I have to say that company of actors, I never felt like I was alone in this experience. Always felt and tried to offer that I got you. Good.
Right. This shared commonality. And also of like, it was different because it had never quite been done before. So it was always this check-in, I feel, and this is like behind the scenes stuff, but a check-in of like, am I doing okay? The barometer of like, is this all right? Like, is there more? Because I think usually when you're in when I did Shakespeare before, it was usually like me and maybe one other person who were BIPOC, and then the rest of everybody was like, Caucasian. So it was always this like, you were the other in a way, and you were still in the company, and you were still doing your job. But when it was when you were with everybody who looked like you, it was something I'd never experienced before with the classics. So it was this thing of like, a lot of the times we were negotiating like, no, we are comfortable. No, we have trained. Yes, we do know what we're supposed to be doing. This strange imposter syndrome, because we had spent a lot of our careers wondering if we could do this, if we were allowed to do this, if we could carry this on our own, because we'd never seen it before. And for me, that was what was the strongest thing about it, seeing people who had never seen a Shakespeare play in their life that were of color, and watching them laugh and come up to us after and say, oh my God, I didn't know what was going on, but I loved it. Kids from my sister's school, and like people that came up from DC, and like to see this, and they would say, oh, I never thought I could be in Shakespeare. I'm going to try out for the play next year. These small things, these small changes were made that all of a sudden made them, they understood, hey, there's no reason why I couldn't do this. There's no reason why a female or whatever you identify as can't play Dogberry.
Yeah.
Because not only, playing Dogberry is usually a traditionally male character. Not only was I playing a traditionally male character, but I was playing a clown. I was a Black I stepped into this thing, a character that everybody hates. Like, everybody's like, you don't even need Dogberry, So it was like, ooh, Get
Yeah,
it together, you know?
yeah.
But I feel like the accessibility, and that's why I love programs that bring the classics, like the public has, bringing the classic to the classrooms.
Mm,
It's all about exposure. You can't know if you love something or you enjoy something if you're not exposed to it.
mhm.
Yeah.
I also have to say that, and this is not the sole experience with Shakespeare that this has happened, but in such a large amphitheater of 8,000 seats, right?
Right.
I felt so connected, eye contact wise, with everybody on stage. And I feel like that translates beyond and to the last row. And the one other time that I had that experience was doing Winter's Tale at Yale. And it was Rob Campbell and I made a decision early on that we were never going to do the scene the same way. And so we were always like, what's he about to do? Yeah.
Right. It's like,
That's right. So, you know, that freedom, again, it goes to that place of the unknown, right? What we don't know as actors / characters in a play can be revealed fully when you trust those who are on stage with you in a way that that connective thread between the two of you, breakable, right? And so, you know, I knew whenever I came on stage and saw your face that we were going to have fun.
Absolutely.
Everything might have shifted.
Right.
Eric pulled the stool out from under my butt.
Right.
But we're going to have fun.
Absolutely. It might rain. The sleet might come down. Someone's going to slip, but we're going to get through. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And it thinks back. I think about just looking into that theater, and you're talking about the audience, and like I would always try, like whenever I was out there, because the audience is like, they're another character in the play, right? So it's like that last person up in the top. Maybe I can't see their eyes, but I'm with them, and they're with me, right? And it's weird. You can't, they're there, but that was like something about that was like fun too. I have a question.
Gregory is saying, thanks so much for being here. This is terrific. Question 1, do you feel you ever have to arc part of your identity, or do you feel you can bring your whole self to a part by old dead writers in the classic or European traction? And the second part is, what problems have you had, or have you had problems with directors or other actors being just boneheaded about racial or ethnic issues? And what do you do if and when that happened?
And sorry to interrupt, Tyrone. Arc should have been park. Do you feel you have
yes.
part of your life? And there was another, and traction, obviously. I meant to say tradition. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I love these.
This is another Yale story, but when I did Enemy of the People up there most recently, the other two people that worked in the press office were students. One was a Latinx young man and the other was a Caucasian young man. And I pulled them aside during the rehearsal process. And I said, okay, guys, let's just talk about the dynamics of this office, of this space. I'm the boss. I hired you and you're Latinx, and you hired him and he's white. So what are the dynamics there? As opposed to playing it, oh, we're doing Ibsen. What other dynamics can we bring to the fore, right? Like, what is it when I say to you, the young Latinx guy, you must be more temperate. You just be more moderate, And what is it for him to, in today's world, to be told that by me? And then how does that cause him to interact with the rest of the scene when he decides to go against my better wishes? You know, so I always know who I am and what I bring to what I do. And as for directors being boneheaded about racial or ethnic issues, you know, there are times when I find myself going, Tyrone, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it.
Let it go. Right.
Don't show up, don't show out, don't get fired, right? But I'm also mindful of, in the moment, I can have a quick tongue. So sometimes I need to pause, check in with others. Am I wrong? Did you?
Right. Was that, did you see what I saw? Or?
Me? Right. In one of those instances, very recent, where, you know, I play a lawyer on The Good Fight. And there was this one moment where there was a connectivity, because it's a Black law firm. And there's a connectivity between me and this other actor who's another lawyer. And it's a bad joke, but it's about Black men. And I turned to him and I said, uh-huh. And the director came up to me and said, well, you know, you're all well-educated lawyers and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that doesn't mean I'm not going to say, here you go.
Right.
That,
you know.
Yeah, that does not, you know, that delineation. I mean, I'm sure if anybody went and sat in a Black law firm in Chicago, they would hear some words that they might not anticipate coming from a Black law firm in Chicago. So,
right.
So, you know, I'm very much about being my whole and complete self in whatever I do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if I feel that I'm being tempered, the curiosity brings me to formulate a question that is clear and concise and direct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I do feel that, you know, there are moments in time when you do have to do some self-protection and some safety checks. You know, nobody's going to diminish my craft because of the color of my skin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just won't allow that.
Right. Yeah. And for me, answering the first question, I do try to bring my whole self to characters. I feel like I am a child of two immigrants that came to this country with nothing. And I'm from Brooklyn, from the hood. You know what I mean? It's very much, that's a part of who I am. So for me, all of that comes with whatever character I'm playing. Like Dogberry in the Park had a Jerry curl and it was a shortcut and she loved it and she wouldn't have had it any different. Because that was a part of who she was, who the character that was being built. And I have to honor all parts of myself, like Tyrone was saying. It would be, I cannot pretend to be, and I think that a lot of times through college, through even grad school in a way, you're taught the classics, especially in institutions, and you have to play it this way. You have to do it like the Brits did it. And it has to be sophisticated and it has to be amazing and regal and like the queen. And it's like, but I'm not the queen. I'm not a part of the monarchy. I never will be. It's not in my family. You know what I mean? So for me, it was this balancing line for Dogberry of like not showing a stereotype of, because I didn't want it to be a caricature of any Black person, but also showing you, hey, I'm real. This person's real, but it's grounded in truth. and I'm both things. I may be confused about, I got the job, at least. I am the constable, so something was right, whether or not I know what I'm talking about. But I got the job. I did something right, right? So this balancing line of allowing the audience to see to see me playing a Eurocentric character that usually they see as a white person, and I'm a Black person, and it's like, hey, look at me in this way. I'm not giving you some stereotype. Dogberry does not sell drugs, right? Dogberry wants to find the people who sells drugs, and she might take a piece and maybe give it away. But you know what I mean? That's something that you don't need to know, right? But there's a full circle understanding of these characters, and understanding that the girl from Brooklyn who's on her fire escape reading Shakespeare, reading Juliet, or reading Desdemona, whoever she wants to read, can be that and can do that. And that it's not, and that she's not allowed in something that I think has been perpetuated as like elitist in a way. It's like, you got to have this degree, you got to be this, you got to be a scholar of this to even say the language. And then even then, did you scan it? Is your alliteration correct? Did you find the trochees? And that's all good and well to know. Wonderful to know. I think the learning of that is important. You should have a toolkit, but then you should be able to create a character that's fully you, or play somebody who has pieces of you that who is a real person. Shakespeare wrote real people. And that's what it comes back to always. That's why you have the different tropes and the different clowns and the different characters, because they were all there. They were all different people. He wrote it for the common man. And I think it went through a time, or maybe still going through that time, where it was like, well, only the poshest and the best can have access to this, because they're the ones that are going to give it to you right. And it makes me question, well, what is right? You know? So for me, I always try to make sure that I'm gonna give you that language. I'm gonna give it to you. It's gonna be scanned. It's gonna be ready to go. But I'm gonna give it to you with a twist. Yeah. And I think that's what I try to gear my students up with. I'm gonna show you how they tell you we have to do it, so that when you do it so well in your own way, there's nothing they can say to you, because you just elevated it in a way that they could never have imagined. Yeah. So that's something that's important for me with that. But then with the second question, oh God, if I could, the amount of times that I've been told, my God, you just speak the language so beautifully. I'm just so surprised. And it's like, thanks. Thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, who did you train with? Like, are you highly trained? Because it's giving training. And I'm like, okay. Did you it's getting weird. Just say good job and I'll sit down, and that's fine. You know what I mean? But it's always the question I've always been asked: who taught you? How do you know how to navigate through this language so easily? Why do you understand it? Do you love this? Have you been doing this since you were a child? What school did you go to? It always comes back to accessibility. Yeah. But I'm like, and I always I'm like, oh, well, sometimes I play the game of like, well, no, I didn't go anywhere. I just read it. And they're like, you didn't.
To that point too, Lateefah, it's that thing of Shakespeare is spitting rhymes.
Absolutely.
So its musicality is embedded in our bodies, right?
Yes.
And speaking of bodies and wigs, how about the fact that our hair designer won an Oscar?
I know. Which is kind of unreal, right?
It's amazing.
And she is maybe the most deserving person, because she didn't come at it from a place of like, this is what you're going to wear. It was like, let's create this. And that's something that, this goes to your question as well, Gregory. We don't get that a lot. Sometimes it's you come in and they're confused. Like, that's why a lot of the times I have my hair done already for set or shows, because they're going to be like, we just don't know what to do. Like, what do you think we should do? And I'm like, it's fine. Got it handled. I'm here. I'm ready. You don't have to touch my hair. Let's just act and let's just do what we've done. But with her, she created, like, she knew the story. She was eating, living, breathing Much Ado. And she was a she was the hair designer. She was like, Dogberry needs short hair. And I'm like, yes, let's go. And it's curly and it's wavy. And like it would rain. And then the activator would get into my eyes. And I'd be looking around for Tyrone, like, oh my God, we gotta go. She was and it just goes to show that even with the what do we say? The elitism of it, it was almost as if, how could you put that hair on stage? Mm-hmm. They should be wearing tight buns and cascading curls. And it's like, no, that's not where they're from. And she had to push against a lot of stuff of like, you know, me and her conversation of just like, I think it should be this because this lives in the truth of where we are. Well, don't you think no, they don't have, no, we're not doing that. So it all comes back again, even for a costume designer, even for a hair designer, accessibility. Doesn't matter what you've done. Once you hit that Shakespeare thing, it seems untouchable sometimes for us. It's like you touch it. It's like you got to be given the key. You have to be that like special person that's been given the okay by somebody who's like high up in the Shakespeare world. And it's like, so-and-so has been knighted. They can do the classics, you know, they're good. So it's constantly, I feel like a fight. I would love to do more Shakespeare. I would love to do more stuff, but the reality of it is there's not a lot of roles. So I'm not only fighting the a lot of time the color bias, but also the size bias. I'm a plus size woman, proud of it. But they're like, you can't play Calpurnia. You can't play Juliet's mom. And I'm like, I can't even play her mom? Really? Okay. You know what I mean? So it's just constantly, and it's like, and I encourage people, students, whoever is watching, don't let that deter you. You eat it and then you push against it. I'm back. Oh, hey. Until they figure, as I always remind myself, no one can control your talent. No one can control how hard you work. And as I'm a firm believer. I remember Doug Wager, a wonderful professor I had, always said, you know, work makes opportunity, and the harder you try, you will be seen. It will happen. So I always push against what they're trying to tell you need to be, and it will always, it'll always work out, I think. And sometimes it doesn't, but it'll work out in another way that you didn't expect. You know?
Yeah, you know, just one more thing to sort of talk about Greg's question. You know, I did a production of All My Sons down in Louisville, Kentucky, and Tim Douglas directed it, and the doctor and his wife as the neighbors. And when the reviewers came, the headline said, "Colorblind casting blurs Miller's message." And what was implied was that because this white family lived next door to a black family, they were presented as more sympathetic characters.
Wow. Interesting.
So, you know, I don't know if anybody here is from Louisville, Kentucky, but we're mindful of the point of view from the outside. We as actors, we can only do the work, and we can't really be mindful or concerned about how it's perceived by reviewers. But playing within the realm of the world, I'm one of those people for myself. If I'm cast as a magician, I did a two-hander. And if I'm cast as a magician, I'm doing my research and I'm going to find every Black magician that has ever existed. You know, and the current president of the Magicians World Union thingy is a Black man, right? So, you know, I'm always going to find some way to align myself with the characters. So it can't be disproven. It can't be looked down the nose at.
A
It
way
can't
in.
be true, right? So playing Friar Francis, I did this whole deep dive into Black friars, you know, and had those images up on my makeup stand and table. You know, there's some version of you in every character you play.
Absolutely. Other questions? Thoughts? Yes.
If anybody's got a question, go. I don't want to hog the questions.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up Miller. The question I was typing, just as you said his name, was, so we talk about Shakespeare and we're in this poetical and often not realistic world. Just what does it mean for this whole issue that you guys are talking about so wonderfully, to talk about Ibsen or Tennessee or Arthur Miller or Schiller, or, you know, maybe not Schiller so much, but more realistic playwrights? I mean, you know, I had my own adventure with All My Sons last year. And ended up withdrawing from the production because we had a disagreement about casting a Black actor in a certain part. Well, just that's the question. Are all the things you've said about Shakespeare, do you find them to be true with the more realistic world, Ibsen, Chekhov, Arthur, et cetera, go down the list?
It's funny for me, I think, like, I love Chekhov. Like, I really love it. And once I left graduate school, I knew I would not be doing it again. And that's sad, but I just knew that. And I think, you know, you go to grad, you know, you're in institutions, so there's like there's kind of like a different feel. But you know, you talk to your professors. I think when you're in grad school, it's a different thing, but it's like, you're right. Unless you come back to ACT and you do it. But the odds of me doing a Chekhov play, and like I've never have, and I've been out of school, grad school 10 years now, and I never have. So I feel like it's funny because Shakespeare is probably a little bit more accessible in terms of like we can get those roles, we can audition at least. But for Chekhov, kind of like you're saying, it's like they're like, well, they're in Russia, and it's like, you know, it's how do we fit you in? And I'm like, so there's no Black people in Russia? I mean, I went to Russia, and it's hard to find, but I've seen a few. You know, they're there. So it's sad that it's still the fight, that it's still the thing of like, if I have this, but it means that I can't do it just because of the way I look, and that's rough. It's a hard pill to swallow. And I think a lot of artists like myself, we have to swallow it every day, but you come to deal with it. Want to do Chekhov? Love Ibsen. Never been able to do Ibsen. You know, and it even goes to, you know, I feel like, and this is just a thing, and I don't know if you agree, Tyrone, but I feel like sometimes Black males or male of color have more of a chance in the classics sometimes, like the Ibsens and the Strindberg, for at least they're closer to hiring a man than they would like a woman to play Masha, or like a Black woman to play Masha, or Ibsen. They're like, oh, well, he can be strong. He can play, you know, like Doll's House. You know what I mean? Or Marriage of Bette and Boo. Like, they're like, yeah. But like, for me, it's like, I don't know where I got to go to find. I don't know how you feel about that. It's just something I put out there.
So sorry, my dog was having a fit, but I'm back. You know, I've done Miller. I've done All My Sons. I've also done The Crucible. Both directed by Tim Douglas, though. You know, and but the beauty of that was that we did get, at the time, we did get a letter from Arthur Miller about our Crucible production. You know, and it you know, it was also set in a way that those coming into the community were white as opposed to being Black, right? So again, playing another priesty, pastory kind of guy, right? And you know, I was and you know, what I was interested in investigating for myself in that was, you know, when we're all in the room and the girls see the bird, the yellow bird, I was like, I see the yellow bird too. You know, right. Like it's
right.
duck, you know, like, you know, so I'm always interested in that sort of. I do feel that there is a default, as you were speaking to, Lateefah, of who's perceived as capable and eligible for certain aspects of the white American theater traditional playwrights. And so I also, in opposition of that, I think it's also important for white students to be exposed to August Wilson in the same way that we are exposed to Miller, Ibsen, Chekhov, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, Wilson's work is very much in line with Chekhov. If you have Stephen McKinley Henderson, they are the same people, right?
Absolutely.
You know, but I also, you know, I also enjoy the fact that Lucas Nath is taking works and not clearly identifying who's playing what in their work, you know. So that you can have the Christians, you can have, you know, Doll's House Part 2, you can have, you know, all these, and same with Will Eno currently, you know, like you can have you have these playwrights who are writing these works that are specifically unclear about race. So that, you know, this play that I'm doing, sorry, I can't actually talk about that live on YouTube.
You're like, wait, hold on. That's funny.
But there is some sense of, if I'm cast in that role, I take the ownership on myself to identify that person, that being, that entity. I see myself reflected in that entity. If I know that I'm playing any character that is traditionally cast as not me, I'm sure to find the me in imagery and writing about them and journaling about them. So, you know, so that I find my way in.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the key. And I think going off of that, for everybody, it's you can find your way in. Totally possible. You can find your way in. That's the message. We can find our way in. There's a way. You know, so I think that's strong and smart, and it is the way. You find it. Yeah. Yes, Gregory.
You know, listening to you talk about Chekhov was heartbreaking in a way. There's a thing about conventions. I think the Goodman in 1978 was the first Christmas Carol, which almost all regional theaters do because it makes you a lot of money.
Yes.
And it's fun. I think we were the first company to cast Black actors. The Cratchit family looked like the Rainbow Coalition.
Yes.
And there was a fair amount of hate mail, and we got national press for doing it. But I'm sure all Christmas carols now are cast colorblind, right?
I do.
So and I don't want to take too much credit for this, but it just took somebody to do it, and then everybody went, "Oh, well, right, of course we're going to do that because we're in a big city, and Chicago at the time was 49% Black, so it didn't make any sense to me that Christmas Carol looked all white in a city that was half Black."
Right.
And then everybody said, "Oh, duh, yeah, well, we'll do that too." I mean, I hope one day that's just true of Chekhov and of Miller and of everybody. It's just, why can't that be the convention?
Because it's like, I love contemporary work, love it, but the classics, it's my jam. And I don't get to do it nearly enough. Because of, opportunity, you got to live. So you know what I mean? You do what comes up. But yeah, there's a lot. And I think there's also this like weird misconception or notion that like BIPOC people are like, oh, they don't really like the classics. And there's a lot, and that's not true. And there's a lot that don't, because of what has happened to them, because of experience, because of exposure, because of how they were exposed to the language. I went to school with people who are like, oh, I hate this. Why do we have to do this? And it's like, oh, well, yeah, a teacher told them you would never do it because of your skin color. You think that wouldn't keep somebody from wanting to do something, or wouldn't put something inside of them that was like, I'm good with that. There's a lot for me to do. So yeah, I think it's, it's important for people to stand up and be like, hey, I'm going to do this. Or this looks cool. And it not be a big deal, but it just be like, it worked. It made sense, kind of like you said, Gregory.
Yeah, I feel like theater can't be theater unless an audience can see themselves on stage.
Period.
So I can go to theater and engage with a character that does not look like me.
Absolutely.
And feel a sense of empathy and journey with that being, that body on stage. And if I go to the theater and Viola Davis is talking to my face, I'm like, hell yes.
You're with her, yeah.
And respectively, when I yell hell yes in an audience, it's received. I went to see Katori Hall's Hot Wing King and had the best damn time of my life. I was yelling at them, they were yelling back. It was, that Dominique Morisseau has really sort of cleansed, or is attempting to cleanse the theater of, is that sanctuary motif that we find ourselves in theater, right? You're not allowed to have a true engaging reaction to what your experience is of the theater, right? Her shows that she's done at Lincoln Center, there's a flyer in the thing. If you feel like yelling, yell. If you feel like having a good ass time, have a good ass time. If you feel like hollering back and praising and running up and down the aisles, do that too, right? And that's when theater is working, because when you are moved to that place where you have to get up out of your seat and yell a little bit, that's when theater is really doing the work that we are trying to get out there and make happen, right? Because that it is hitting somebody in a place that they have never experienced before in their lives. Who don't have you're preaching? Go ahead.
I know. Now it just makes me think of it. It just reminded me of representation. And like I told you about my parents, my mom, my exposure to Broadway, my mother took 3 children. I'm sure it was not cheap to see Aida. And I think Idina Menzel maybe had just left, or I'm not sure where it was, but that night, Nina Simone's daughter, was playing Aida. And after the show, we, it was like we saw her, we talked to her, and she was like, I saw, because that was when you could get the cheap tickets from, ticket, what's now Ticket X, that's not cheap, but where you could get those $20 tickets and you could sit in the front row. And we first thing I'd ever seen, and hearing her and seeing her after, and her actually talking to us and talking to my mom and being like, oh my God, seeing you on the front row, I felt like I felt so taken care of. Please bring more of us. And that is my first memory. I was like 14. My first memory of her being like, bring more. And I remember there was another young guy who played in the chorus. He was, one of the slaves, but my mom was like, oh my God, so what are you going to do now? Where are you going now? Going home, celebrate, whatever. And he's like, I'm going to my next job. And we were like, next job, you just did a whole play, you know? We're all like, what do you mean next job? And he's like, you got to pay the bills. He's like, you got to pay the bills. He's like, I love it. And that's why I do it. And these things just, you never forget that kind of stuff. You just don't. That representation, what that meant, seeing her there, you know, for me. And that lives with me. And that story always, it not doesn't haunt me, but it's just this thing of her saying, bring more of us so they can see what we're doing. It's not what they think. Yeah. So it was, maybe that was, you know, where I was like, maybe I need to do this in life, but didn't quite understand it yet or know it yet, because it took some time after that, you know. But I think it's just a reminder to push back, listen to the universe giving you the signs, push back against, you know. And I'm still not done with my pushback. I feel like I got a lot left in me in terms of what I'm working on and what I'm trying to do. Yeah. But I think it's just, and this is for anybody, just it's not enough to just take the no. You gotta spin it, and you have to make it work for yourself, because you deserve to be a part of the classics. You deserve to be a part of that world, especially when you love it. I don't want anybody else to go through, to have to experience loving the classics and not getting to do it because of the way they look physically and skin wise. I want that to be better. I don't want a young girl to have the same experience that I had. It should be different, yeah. So what can I do to help that? What can I do to facilitate that, besides telling them to push, besides telling them, hey, it's okay, you can look the way you want to look, and you love Ibsen and you want to do it, you do it. You want to play Masha, you play Masha. You audition. Don't let anything that you may see in a audition notice or whatever deter you from wanting to do it, wanting to play it, even things, you know, dumb things that people will say to you. Roll it off. Cool, thank you. Didn't ask for your opinion. I'm gonna still do this thing. Yeah. And you push past it. And you push and you push and you push and you push, and it'll give. It's gonna have to, you know.
And sometimes that no is a blessing.
Yeah.
Because the no opens up space for something else to arrive in its place, right? So, you know, there's only a few times where I have been in that place of like, these no's are going to take me out, right? But beyond, you know, it's like, okay. And I had a full year of not booking a ding dang dong thing, right? And I was like, what am I doing wrong? And it took some deep searching, and I realized that what I was doing wrong, or what was happening for me, is that I was wearing the no as I walked into the room.
So message. I'm taking that message too today.
I had to get a cleanse. I was like, wash this off of me, because I don't need this no more, you know.
Right.
But that's that trap that we as artists / actors / beings on this planet, we take it very difficultly, and we hold on to it when we are rejected. And that rejection is a moment in time where the connectivity between you and the other person in the room just wasn't there on that day. But that is not something you have to carry with you. I speak from whence I know.
Right. It doesn't define you.
Exactly.
It's just another no on the journey.
Yep. Because the yes is waiting for you to realize that it's right over there.
Right. And it only takes one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yay. Do we have any other questions? I know it's, I don't know what time it is. I haven't checked, but anything from anyone?
The only stupid question that you ask is the one you didn't ask.
Mhm. Okay. Think. Doesn't seem like anybody has anything. Madison? Yeah, okay. All right then. So I guess I'll wrap it up then. Should I do it? Okay. Thank you guys for sharing in this little special moment with us in this little hour. I love doing this because I could think it gets a chance to just connect again in a time where it's been pretty hard to connect. Yeah. So I'm hoping that this was fun and chill and easygoing, and so thank you all. Go for, as I tell my students after class, go forth with your day. Have a good one. And thank you, Tyrone. Thank you to Gregory and Madison and Sana and Jenny for putting this all together and having us here and making this work to talk about all this. Yeah.
Pleasure it has been to spend time with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Call
Yay.
me, Lateefah.
I will. I'm gonna call you. I promise. Thank you, Gregory. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
I'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.